embroidery hoops, to wrap or not to wrap? That's the question. Well, let's chat about the wrapping of hoops today. Well, my friends, how many of you have asked yourself, should I wrap my embroidery hoop or shouldn't I wrap my embroidery hoop? What's the right thing? Well, the bottom line is there's really no right and there's really no wrong. It really is a matter of preference. It's a matter of what you would like to do. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about the reasons why to wrap an embroidery hoop. What's the benefit of doing that? And then I'm going to show you how to do it. So I have some notes here so I don't forget to tell you things. So when I look away, you know why. What does wrapping do for your hoop or for your stitching? It serves as an extra layer of padding so that when you put that hoop on, yeah, maybe your stitches are going to be a little squooshed, but they're not going to be as squooshed as if you didn't have a hoop on. It's also going to protect your fabric a little bit. You know, fabric it can get dirty, it can get friction from being in that hoop for long periods of time, so it is going to help protect it. And it's going to keep your fabric tighter in the hoop for a longer amount of time because it's going to have that extra layer of friction. You know, hoops are, when you look at them, they're smooth. So there isn't really anything there friction-wise to hold that fabric so it doesn't work loose. And many of us, myself included, like my fabric tight when I'm working in a hoop. So that's one reason. If you're using a good quality hoop, okay, and the ones that come to mind first of all are the Hardwick Manor hoops. They are excellent, excellent hoops. My Hardwick Manor hoops, I tend not to wrap. I have never had, up to this point, every time I have used them, I have not had an issue with a Hardwick Manor hoop crushing or smashing or moving my stitches out of place or even leaving those shiny hoop marks on my fabric that really are hard to get out. Yes, I might see a mark from the pressure, but in a few hours, if you go back, it's gone. It's gone. So I don't have any trouble with those kinds of hoops. I'm talking if you're using hoops like from Walmart or Hobby Lobby or the cheaper hoops that you're going to get for less than $5. Yes, they're hoops. Yes, they do the job, but are they a good quality hoop? Are they a well-made hoop? Probably not. Probably not. So if you're using those you probably would want to wrap, because if any hoops are going to cause, and again, these are my opinions only, but if any hoops are going to cause damage to your stitching, it's going to be those. Again, my opinion only, and all you ever get is my opinion. Okay, let's clear that up right up front. but I mean, if you have a little bit of a crease in your fabric when you tighten that hoop, that crease is going to stay there, and you might have a hard time getting it out later. And it protects your work. It acts as a cushion. It protects the stitches. It helps them not to get dislodged or smooshed or whatever. Now, granted, a lot of times washing and pressing does bring them all back up where they should be. And I have said that many times. And if any of my stitches ever looked a little squished, that's all I had to do was wash it and iron it, and my stitches were back just as beautiful as they were when I first stitched them before I moved the hoop. And we all know that, especially those of us that do larger projects, you are going to have to move that hoop, and it is going to have to go on top of already stitched areas. If you're stitching a big heaven and earth design, far be it for me to know how to put a hoop on there that is not going to have stitches underneath it. It's just not going to happen. But one of the other reasons to wrap a hoop is decorative. Some people just like to see a nice fabric or a washi tape on the outer hoop. And that is a nice thing to do. It brightens up your stitching a little bit and gives you something nice to look at besides the stitching. I have not done that, although I do have some washi tape here, and I was tempted to try. I might just get that out today yet and put that on my outer hoop. This is a hardwood manor hoop, and I have had it wrapped for a very long time. Several years, in fact. And, from use, from oils in your hand and what have you, it gets dirty. It does. It just, even though you wash your hands before you stitch and you try and be as clean as you can about it, this wrapping may from time to time get dirty. The other thing is, it is a twill tape, and it's a little heavier than I like to put on a hoop. I got a big roll of it off of Amazon, a nice size, one of their rolls. And I had to use it up. So I used it. It's a little thicker, but it worked fine. It's just that it was a little harder maybe to get the hoop on because this was so heavy and took up so much space. And what I ended up having to do is open the screw thing quite a bit to get my fabric in there. Because I do prefer to stitch with a little hoop. You always hear me say it. A hoop no larger than the size of your hand. Why? So you can feel the back. You can feel the knots. You can feel any distortions or what's going on. I have to know what's going on back there. I'm not all about neat backs. Believe me, I carry threads too. But I have been known to frog just because of a knot that I didn't feel right away. Yeah. Wackadoodle. Mm-hmm. You got it. So, that pretty much is the reasons why you want to wrap a hoop. Like I said, it's personal preference. You don't have to. You can. Like I said, some of my hoops are wrapped, some of my hoops are not. Normally, this is the one I use when stitching a heaven and earth design. Even the hardanger design that I'm using, I have been putting that in a hoop just as a means of handling that big piece of fabric. And that's white fabric, so I really need to replace my wrapping on this hoop. What do you wrap a hoop with? Well, You can use seam binding. You can use twill tape. You can use ribbon. Or what I'm going to do today is I made some like a binding, like you would, only it's thin, like you would put on binding strips to bind a quilt. I made some of that, and I'm going to use it to wrap my hoop with. And I'm not going to worry about the edges that are fraying. Whoop-de-doo. It is what it is. But I'm going to wrap my hoop with that because I thought, oh, it might be nice to have something, some cotton wrapping on this time instead of white twill tape. Besides that, it's thinner, and that's the main reason that I wanted to use this, or something thinner, because I didn't, should have stopped yesterday on my way home from the dentist. Should have stopped at Joanne's because I was right near there at the oral surgeon. But I didn't think of it at the time, so I had this scrap of fabric left over, and I thought, okay, let's do that. So I'm going to switch you to my overhead camera here, and we are going to unwrap this hoop and put some cotton wrapping on it. So let's go to that. Oh, we need to turn the music off. I don't think you want to listen to that and to me talk, do you? So the first thing I have to do is cut this off. So I do have to find a place where I can cut it, because what you're going to do then, when you get it, I'll get in camera here, when you get it all wrapped, is you're going to sew it to hold it together. I did see a video that I was watching the other day where somebody was wrapping a hoop and they used hot glue. And I guess you could do that. I don't know that that would be my first choice. But boy, did I sew this on here good, ladies and gentlemen. Must have been a bumper day. Here we go. So we're just gonna unwrap this, and it's no wonder it's thick. Look, I went over it twice. What was I thinking? Just at that one spot. So you can, when you look at it, you can see, oh yeah, it was getting a bit nasty. And like I said, this has been on here for several years, so I hope I made enough I hope I made my strip long enough. So, okay, watching me unwrap this is like watching paint dry. I get it, but we're almost all the way around. And wrapping a hoop really is not difficult. It really is very simple. It just takes a little, let me move it this way a little bit. There we go. It's not hard to do. It can be frustrating sometimes. Mainly because it tends to want to come unwrapped. But I'm going to show you how to hopefully prevent some of that unwrapping as you are trying to get it wrapped. Okay, so my first suggestion is get yourself some Wonder Clips or some, I use clothespins. Okay, and find the end here. All you're going to do is I gotta move over here so I stop getting out of the frame. All you're going to do is start this by wrapping it at an angle. Adjust, adjust, adjust. Hold on. Here we go. Oops. There we go. Now hopefully we'll stay in the frame. Okay? So you want to start off at an angle. I kind of hold my thumb underneath there. And what you want to do is just gently overwrap. Now, before I go too far, and I have this started, because see what happens when you let it go? Dun, 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 dun. It wants to unwrap right away. So I am going to take clothespin number 1 and stick it right on there so that I don't lose my starting place. Now, this is what gets the tedious part. Because you have this long, and I know, I could have rolled this up in a ball. And what you're going to do is just keep pushing this through. And keep going around. And just, do you see how we're just overlapping it? Here, watch this. Okay, just so the edges are overlapped. And you want to try and keep this angle, because then it's going to take a little less fabric to wrap it. Okay. Okay. And we're just going to keep going around. And like I said, I'm not worried about all those little fringes. We'll cut them off. I'll just cut them off at a later point. And like I said, this is the part that's annoying, where you have to keep moving your binding. But you see, we're just and pardon me for jiggling around here. It's a little hard to do without moving all over the place. But you just keep wrapping around and around. Oh, there's a little, okay, we'll cut those off. Okay, I try to do a couple wraps before. Oh, I cut plenty. I'm gonna maybe even be able to go over this twice. And when you have a thin cotton like this, you might want to. You don't have to. It depends on, how padded do you want it. Just the fabric itself is going to give you that extra friction to keep your linen or your even weave or even your Aida cloth tight. Now, the other thing is you want to, as best you can, avoid getting any wrinkles in here. So you want this all to lay flat as you get it. You can get it. You don't want any bunched up areas, because those bunched up areas will possibly cause you some issues in the future. So you don't want to put creases in this, as best you can. That's where I sewed it together. Okay. But you see, now we're partway around. If I let this go, what's going to happen? It's going to start to get loose, and I'm going to have to redo things. So when I get partway around, I like to stick another clothespin on, so that if this does start to unravel, it's only going to unravel back to here. And I can keep going. I don't have that much. Oop. Wonder where my camera went there for a second. I was having a moment. Like I said, this is a bit fiddly, so my apologies for being all over the place, and there's times I probably have my hand in the way, but we're gonna get her wrapped. Okay. Do you see? Just a slight overlap. Slight overlap. So that you can always keep it angled. And like I said, these little things will just cut off. And we're getting close to the end. And I really am pulling rather tight. So that it lays, well, mainly so that it lays nice and flat. Okay, see. Now, I know that I am not going to go around here twice. So in order to avoid some of this, I'm going to shorten my I'm going to cut it off at, should be able to cut it off about there, and we'll be fine. Okay, because already I am back to my beginning. Now, here's what gets, all right, I want to have that wrap there, I want to have this wrap here, and I'm going to try and incorporate that little end underneath these final little wraps. Okay, now I don't want to end on the outside, I want to end on the inside. Okay, so now I have my whole thing wrapped. And we'll give this a little haircut when we're done. But I don't have my needle and thread. Hold on, I'll be right back. And we say, thank heaven for clothespins so that we don't lose our wrapping. Oh, so I am going to use, I just use embroidery floss to hold it in place, okay? And for, well, let's get rid of this. For strength, I'm going to double it. And one of the few times in my stitching life that I use a knot. And I just do a knot like this. I just wrap it around my finger once. I roll it off the end of my finger. I grab it here and I pull. And that just makes a little old knot. And now I'm going to go over here to the end, and I'm going to try and stay on the inside, and I'm going to poke that knot underneath that flap that I left. Okay. And I am just going to sew these two layers together on the, like I said, on the inside, because we don't want this to interfere with our fabric. And I just do stitches that I know I'm getting the layers together. It's nothing fancy. It's just enough to hold it together. And again, I'm working in and out of a hoop. You see, it's getting both layers together, and I just put as many stitches as I can till I think everything is nice and secure. I don't know why I feel like I'm doing this backwards. I am doing it backwards. And once I go one way, I'm gonna turn it around and I'm gonna put some more going this way. That's why I felt backwards. I'm right-handed and I had it tilted for a left-hander. We don't need this now, so you can see a little bit better. And after you have it nice and secure that that's not going to go anywhere, you just do another knot. I always like to do that twice. And then I just run it underneath one more time. And cut it all off. Okay, so there you have it. One wrapped hoop. Yeah, we got little fray ends on there, but we'll cut those off later. And now this goes on much easier. And I will be able to get more of my fabric underneath it with a lot less hassle. So that is how you wrap a hoop. Sorry for the jumbling around. I know it's a little difficult to do that and stay in frame at the same time, because it is a lot of twisting and turning and wrapping and whatever. But hopefully you got the general idea of what it takes to wrap a hoop, and you can make an informed decision about whether you want to wrap your hoops or not. Like I said, if I don't, this is a Hardwick Manor hoop and I did wrap it, and I do rather like having it wrapped. However, my other Hardwick Manor hoops and my Nurge wooden hoops, I do not have wrapped. I have not had issues with them. So it really is a point of whatever you prefer, whatever you want to do. You don't have to wrap them, but it's not going to hurt anything to wrap them. And hopefully your stitches will stay nicer. This is a Nerge hoop that I have here, a Nerge number 4. I don't have this wrapped, and I really have not had any trouble with my fabric being in this hoop. However, I tend to not let my hoops on all the time. My tendency is to take my hoop off whenever I'm done stitching. Okay, so I don't put a hoop on and let it on and let it on and let it on and let it on. I put a hoop on for the time I'm stitching, and when I'm finished, I take it off. Q-snaps, however, are a different story. If something's in a Q-snap, it stays in a Q-snap until I need to move the Q-snap. I'm not as, mainly because they're rounded, they don't have as much tendency to mark your fabric like a hoop does, so it is a little different. So I hope that you can make a decision on what you want to do, and if you decide to wrap, that at least this gave you an idea of how to wrap your hoop. So with that, my dear friends, I am going to say goodbye for now, and it looks like I didn't finish my screen setups here. Oh, I had technical difficulties again that I'm just not going to go into. And I kind of had to redo things again, but that's okay. That's okay. We're here, and that's all that matters. So with that, my friends, I am going to say goodbye for now. Look for a stitch with me. Could probably be yet today or tomorrow. This time it's probably going to be a hard hanger stitch with me. So have a great rest of your day. I will see you next time. And don't forget, the only rules in cross stitch are the ones you set for yourself.